The edge of tomorrow. They came without a warning. No sound, no sign, just light cutting through the morning sky. People thought it was the dawn of a new day. They were wrong. It was the end of the world we knew. At first, no one moved. Cities stared at the heavens, watching strange lights scatter like falling stars. But these weren't stars. They stopped mid-air. They hovered. And then they spoke. A signal pierced every frequency, every network, every screen. A voice, calm, trembling, almost human, said only 4 words. We come for help. Governments froze. Armies waited for orders that never came. The world's leaders gathered in silent panic while billions of eyes stared upward. Some said it was a trick. Some prayed. And some were waiting. Dr. Elara, head of the Global Observatory, was the first to decode their transmission. They're not from one world. They're from many. Hours later, their ships breached the clouds. Massive, silver vessels shaped like shards of glass drifted above the oceans, silent and terrifyingly beautiful. From within the first craft, a figure emerged. Tall, lean, its skin shimmering like liquid light. It didn't walk. It glided. Its voice echoed through the minds of everyone watching the broadcast. We seek asylum. The Legion follows us. That single word, Legion, spread faster than any weapon ever made. People whispered it as if saying it too loud might summon death itself. Behind closed doors, world leaders argued. Some saw an opportunity, others extinction. General Rayner spoke first, slamming his fist against the table. We can't trust them. You don't run from monsters unless you are one. But Elara stood her ground. They're not our enemies. They're running from something worse. If we close our doors, the Legion won't stop with them. They'll come for us next. For a moment, silence filled the war room. The world held its breath. And then, the president said what no one expected to hear. Prepare for contact. Tell them, Earth will listen. No one realized then that listening would be the most dangerous thing humanity would ever do.
The ships landed 3 days later. Not in one place, but across the planet. Deserts, oceans, tundras, and cities. They didn't invade. They surrendered. The world watched as creatures from distant stars stepped onto human soil. They looked nothing alike. Some tall and bright as flame, others pale and made of metal. One species even shifted form as they breathed. For the first time in human history, fear and wonder shared the same heartbeat. Dr. Elara stood at the landing site in Iceland, the cold wind cutting against her face. Beside her, soldiers pointed rifles at the unknown. Keep your weapons down, she ordered. If they wanted to kill us, we'd already be dead. The lead alien approached, its eyes like liquid mercury, its movements deliberate, heavy with exhaustion. It spoke softly, but the sound echoed inside her mind, not her ears. Our worlds are gone. The Legion devour stars. We came to warn you before they come for yours. Elara swallowed hard. Why us? Why Earth? Because your planet is alive. It fights back. You still have what we lost. Resistance. The military commander beside her, Colonel Hasker, frowned. Resistance? To what? You talk like death has a plan. The alien turned, looking straight at him. It does. That night, the first global broadcast aired, humans and off-worlders speaking together for the first time. The world was split. Some celebrated a new dawn of unity. Others shouted of invasion and deceit. In the streets, protests burned brighter than the city lights. Signs read, "Go home, monsters." But they had no home left. Inside a hidden base beneath the Atlantic Council, the leaders gathered again. General Raynor's voice thundered through the chamber. "This is a setup. They brought the Legion here. They're not refugees, they're bait." Elara clenched her fists. "You're wrong. They're running from extinction." "Maybe, but extinction spreads." Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered. The air vibrated. A low hum rose through the walls, growing louder, sharper. Technicians scrambled at their consoles. "What's happening?" Elara demanded. A young analyst looked up, face pale as paper. "Something just entered the solar system. It's not one ship, it's thousands." The room went silent. For a moment, even the aliens on the broadcast screens stared wordlessly. Elara felt a chill crawl up her spine. "They found us," she whispered.
No one slept that night. The skies had changed. The stars themselves seemed to shiver, as if afraid of what was coming. At dawn, telescopes captured the first images. Black vessels swallowing the sunlight, silent shadows stretching across the void. Thousands of them. The Legion had arrived. Every defense network on Earth lit up at once. Cities dimmed, skies turned crimson, and the world's satellites began to vanish one by one. Within hours, communication systems failed. Then came the noise, a deep, unending hum that seemed to crawl beneath the skin. Elara stood at the central command hub, surrounded by chaos. "Get me orbital feed," she shouted. A technician's trembling voice answered, "Ma'am, there is no orbit left." The screens flickered, then showed it, the first wave. Massive black ships tearing through the upper atmosphere like blades through silk. Colonel Hasker turned to her. "We can't fight that. We can't even count them." The alien leader, the silver-eyed being known as Kael, stepped forward. "You can't fight them up there, but down here you still have a chance." Raynor barked. "A chance to die faster, maybe." Kael's gaze hardened. "You humans speak of courage. Prove it." The first strikes began minutes later. Energy beams rained down, splitting mountains, boiling oceans. Cities fell in silence, not explosions, just erasure. It was as if the world itself was being deleted. Elara's voice shook, but held firm. "Kael, you said they devour stars. How?" "They consume energy, matter, even thought. The Legion is not alive, it's a hive. It feeds. The more fear, the stronger it grows." "So how do we stop something that feeds on fear?" Kael hesitated. "You don't. You starve it." That single sentence changed everything. The military council split into chaos. Some demanded full nuclear retaliation. Others screamed to surrender. Raynor slammed his fist down. "We nuke them or we're done." Kael's voice sliced through the noise. "If you do, you'll feed them more. You'll give them what they want, destruction." The room went dead silent. Then Elara stepped forward. "Enough. We don't have time for politics. We need a strategy, now." Kael turned to her. "There is one, but it requires something only Earth has." Elara narrowed her eyes. "What is it?" Kael looked up at the sky, where the black swarm was beginning to eclipse the sun. He said, "Life, your world's energy. Its pulse. We can turn it against them." Raynor barked. "Meaning using our planet as bait?" Kael's voice was calm. "Not bait. A weapon." And in that moment, Elara realized the terrible truth. To save the world, they might have to risk destroying it.
They called it the Alliance, but no one truly trusted it. Not the humans, not the outsiders, not even the ones who created it. In the ruins of what used to be Geneva, the last Council of Earth gathered, surrounded by smoke, silence, and ghosts of a world that once was. Elara stood before a fractured holographic map. Half the continents were gone, swallowed by legion firestorms, the rest barely breathing. Kael entered, his silver armor scorched, his eyes darker than before. "You waited too long," he said. "The legion feeds on delay." Raynor turned on him, fury in his voice. "You aliens brought this war to us." Kael didn't flinch. "We brought you warning. You ignored it." The room fell quiet. The weight of truth was heavier than any weapon. Elara cut through the silence. "Arguing won't rebuild the sky. We fight together or we vanish together." For a moment, there was something like respect in Kael's eyes. "Then you'll need to understand what we're facing," he said softly. "The Legion is not an army. It's a mind, one will, one purpose. It consumes everything that thinks, feels, or dreams." "Then we destroy its core," Raynor said. Kael shook his head. "You can't. It moves between dimensions. You can only trap it, and that will require power beyond what your world can survive." A cold silence filled the room. Elara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then we're already dead." Kael looked at her, and for the first time, something almost human flickered across his face. "Not yet. There's a way, but it will cost you everything you still have faith in." The words lingered, sharp as glass. Later that night, under the broken stars, Elara walked among the refugees. Children slept beside alien soldiers. Human hands shared rations with beings of light and crystal skin. It was strange and beautiful. But somewhere deep in the camp, a shadow moved, silent, deliberate. Someone was transmitting coordinates. Raynor's voice whispered over the calm, "Elara, we've been betrayed." The transmission was traced, not to a human, but to an alien, one of Kael's own. Kael's fury was ice cold. He said, "They found us. The Legion is coming." Elara stared at him. "You said we had time." Kael turned away. "We don't anymore." The ground trembled. Above the horizon, the sky cracked open, black light pouring through the clouds. The Legion had found the Alliance, and this time, it wasn't coming to conquer. It was coming to finish what it started.
The first blast came before dawn. It wasn't light, it was darkness, folding, burning, swallowing the sky. By the time alarms streamed, half the Alliance base was already gone. The Legion had found them. Elara ran through fire and static, shouting orders into broken comms. "Evacuate the lower sectors! Protect the civilians!" The air itself felt alive, vibrating with a sound that wasn't sound at all. It crawled inside the bones, made every thought feel heavy. Kael appeared through the smoke, carrying a wounded soldier, human, not alien. Blood streaked his armor. "They're phasing through dimensions," he said breathlessly. "Your weapons can't lock on." Raynor snapped. "Then what the hell can we use?" Kael's silver eyes narrowed. "Courage, and the one thing they cannot touch, unity." Explosions tore through the horizon.
The ground split open as Legion drones poured out, black as oil, silent as nightmares. For every one destroyed, 2 more emerged. Inside the command bunker, Elara stared at the tactical feed. Every red dot on the screen meant a fallen ally. The screen turned red faster than she could breathe. "Pull everyone back to the valley," she ordered. A soldier's voice cracked through the noise. "Ma'am, there is no valley left." Kael turned to her. "You still don't understand. The Legion doesn't destroy cities. It erases them from existence. Every memory, every trace. When they leave, it's as if nothing was ever there." Elara clenched her fists. "Then we hold the line here." Raynor stepped closer. "With what? Hope?" Elara looked him in the eyes. "Exactly that." Kael's gaze lingered on her. "Hope is the last thing they taste before they starve." Outside, lightning split the heavens, the sky shimmered, and something enormous began to descend. Not a ship, not a being, a shadow that stretched across the entire horizon. The core of the Legion. The earth quaked beneath it. Time itself seemed to tremble. Raynor whispered, "We're not fighting an army. We're fighting God." Elara's voice steadied, cold and fierce. "Then let's show God what humans do when they're cornered." They turned the last of Earth's power grids into a single defense pulse, an energy roaring upward, striking the core. For one brief moment, the light pushed the darkness back. Kael shouted, "It's working!" But then the light faltered. A second later, the entire command hub shook. The Legion had adapted. The light turned black and swallowed the base whole. The world fell silent. No screams, no explosions, just a hollow stillness. When Elara opened her eyes, she saw the ruins and the dead. The Alliance was gone. Kael knelt beside her, his armor cracked, his voice a whisper. "They've taken everything." Elara stared at the rising black sky. "Not everything," she said quietly. "They haven't taken tomorrow."
Silence. That was all that remained. No cities, no sky, only ash and the echo of what used to be life. Elara woke beneath the ruins of steel and dust. Her body ached, her mind burned. Kael was there beside her, his armor half melted, the faint light in his chest flickering. "How long?" she whispered. 2 days, maybe 3. Time doesn't flow right anymore." They were surrounded by a handful of survivors, humans and aliens both. A broken alliance, holding on to nothing but stubbornness. Raynor limped toward them, his uniform torn, his face pale. "We found the transmission source," he said quietly. Elara frowned. "The traitor?" Raynor nodded and looked straight at Kael. For a moment, no one breathed. Kael's expression didn't change. "You think it was me?" Raynor's hand trembled near his weapon. "It was your code, Kael, your signal that led the Legion here." Elara's eyes narrowed. "Is that true?" Kael's voice was calm, too calm. "Yes, but not by choice." The survivors tensed. Kael continued. "They infected my neural core. I was a beacon long before I arrived on your planet. I tried to warn you before they traced me here." Raynor shouted, "So you doomed us all?" Kael looked up at the dead sky. "No, I gave you a chance to fight." The air was heavy with rage and disbelief. Elara's voice was sharp as a blade. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Would you have listened?" Kael asked softly. "Humans only believe in heroes, not warnings."
Silence again, this time colder. Then a distant hum, faint, growing, pulsing like a heartbeat. The Legion was returning to finish the last of them. Raynor stepped forward. "We can't run." Elara nodded. "We don't." Kael turned to her. "You still have your planet's pulse, the energy that binds your life force. If you merge it with my core, it can overload the Legion's network." Elara's voice cracked. "That would kill you." Kael smiled faintly. "And you?" Raynor grabbed her arm. "Elara, no. We'll find another way." She shook her head. "There is no other way. He said it himself. We either starve the darkness or we become part of it." Kael reached out his hand. "For one moment," he said quietly, "let our worlds breathe together." Elara took his hand. Their palms met, human warmth against alien light. The sky trembled, the earth screamed. A wave of pure white energy burst outward, shattering the clouds, cutting through the black swarm. The Legion's core recoiled, twisting, fracturing, until it collapsed inward like a dying sun. When the light faded, the world was still. Raynor crawled through the smoke, shouting their names, but there was no answer. Only two silhouettes in the distance, dissolving into light. For the first time in centuries, the stars shone again, and beneath them, the wind carried a whisper, Kael's voice, faint and fading. "Tomorrow belongs to you now."
It ended not with thunder, but with silence. A silence so deep the world itself seemed to be holding its breath. The Legion was gone. Not destroyed, not erased, just gone, like a nightmare that had burned itself out. Raynor was among the first to awaken. He stood on the shattered plains where the last battle had been fought. No fire, no machines, just a vast emptiness bathed in pale light. The air smelled clean for the first time in years. Around him, survivors emerged, dazed, wordless, alive. Humans, aliens, and something in between. No one spoke. They simply looked at the sky, as if afraid to believe it was truly over. And above them, the clouds began to part. A new sun, brighter, softer, rose over the ruins. Raynor whispered, "We did it." But the words felt too small for what they'd lost. He turned toward the place where Elara and Kael had stood. Only a crater remained, glowing faintly like a heartbeat beneath the soil. The scientists would later call it the core of tomorrow. They said it pulsed with strange energy, neither human nor alien, yet somehow both. No one dared touch it. It became sacred. Years passed. Cities were rebuilt, slowly, cautiously. The survivors of the Alliance formed a new council, one that didn't rule by borders or flags, but by memory. Children were taught two names before any other, Elara and Kael. Not as soldiers, but as a story, a reminder that courage was not about victory, but about standing when the world told you to fall. Raynor grew old. Every year he visited the glowing crater, now surrounded by gardens and silence. He would stand there, close his eyes, and whisper, "Still watching, aren't you?" Sometimes, when the wind was quiet, he swore he could hear her voice, faint, gentle, carried through the air. "We are, and so are you." The legend said that on the longest night of every century, when the stars flickered blue instead of white,
two lights could be seen walking across the horizon, one human and one not, guarding the world they once saved. And so the story of the edge of tomorrow was never forgotten, because tomorrow was never meant to be perfect, only earned.